Jeff Jones never wanted to give you any honest answers. Jeff Jones thought if he wined and dined half our business leaders and brought city employees out on expensive trips to see how other cities violate their citizens' privacy, that this would go through without any resistance.
The main thing I think everyone has missed in this whole picture seems to be these cameras are already in place. They're already recording. We're talking about a system that's going to combine all these cameras to help our police department do a better job.
Comments from last night's City of Columbia Council meeting regarding FUSUS, a system that would help officers fight crime. It would help law enforcement get a quicker jump on things. And this first guy, by the way, completely wrong. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Jeff Jones did this. I want to tell you a story. Several years ago, we got wind there was a police officer in Columbia, and I think he was going down 70. He was around the 6370 connector, car broken down on the side of the road. And this police officer pulls over, and he stops, and it's a woman who's apparently her battery has died. She's got 2 young kids in the backseat of the car. She's trying to get to work. It's rush hour traffic. This officer stops, goes above and beyond the call of duty, and what this officer did, he got the woman, he took the kids, and I can't remember if it was to school, to daycare, goes, takes the woman to work, walks into work with her.
Wow.
So that they would think, oh, she's not making an excuse for being late. This police officer walks into work with this woman and says, hey, here's what happened. Then, after that, goes and buys her a battery, takes the wallet takes his wallet, takes cash out, buys a battery for this woman, goes and installs it. We had that officer on the show. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. That officer is now the chief of police in Columbia. So I get incredibly disturbed when you have jackasses like that. Well, the Chief Jeff Jones, he did this and he did that, and people thinking that Chief Jeff Jones is wanting to surveil people completely off base and off kilter. This fails last night 4-3, and I want to start with the city council members who voted against. And here's the thing. You know, what are we crying for? Our big concerns right now, nationally and locally, it's the economy and our safety.
And it's crime. I'm flabbergasted by this vote. I mean, we've been seeing people literally get shot in the heart of our community.
That's right.
We've said we have to do something. Our Downtown Business Association says we have to do something. You know, as moms of people who might end up at the university, I'm thinking we have to do something as a community member. And the police said, hey, here's an easy idea. We've already got these cameras up. Why don't we make sure we can access them? Seems like to me a no-brainer. And now what? We're just going to let people continue to get shot in downtown? And what's our other plan for that? I don't know.
And Stephanie, one important you're absolutely right, but I would add one key word to what you said there. Not only did the Downtown Business Association, Downtown Leadership Council, DLC is their formal name, not only did they come out in support of it, they wrote, and Branden read it yesterday, they wrote what they called an emergency letter, emphasized the word emergency. And they actually said that Mizzou student almost was killed, the one that was shot in the armpit that Randy Tobler and his son-in-law happened to stumble upon. Very contentious vote. The criticism primarily, Branden and Stephanie, is Dan Vietz is against it because he is concerned. He doesn't think it's worked in other communities from the ACLU, et cetera. But there are others. Pat Fowler believes it's going to target certain demographics. The chief, I thought, tried to address that.
She meant black people.
That's
my take.
I kind of there's no other way to describe. I mean, I don't know. Not sure any other.
She's a soft unicorn and rainbows kind of liberal, and she's an idiot. Here's her phone number. She is one of the people who voted against this. Pat Fowler. You can call Pat Fowler in the 573 area code. I think it'd be a good idea to make sure that you are in her ward. Her phone number is 256-6841. 256-6841. She is one of the 4, and she's a thorn in the side of cops. This woman is an idiot, an absolute bona fide idiot who likes to hear herself talk.
Was there a reason why we could not slow down the timeline for both you and the chief and other?
Chloe, was there a reason why we could not slow down the timeline? My goodness, one of the other criticisms, lack of transparency. Are you freaking kidding me? How many public meetings have they had? Tell me one local news outlet that hasn't covered this over the months that we have been talking about this. Stephanie's tired of talking about
Yesterday, I actually told the chief, I'm like, is this almost over? Like, we've talked and talked and talked. And I asked him, I said, when this first came up, did you think this was going to be a months-long process? It really seems like it shouldn't be that. I mean, how long have we been talking about this?
Well, in the two meetings, they had two lengthy discussions plus a public hearing. In this meeting last night, Layla Mitchell pointed out it went well over 5 hours. Over. People literally lined up at the podium.
I'm showing a news report. Software could give police real-time surveillance of downtown, blah, blah, blah. June 9th. What? So,
6 months.
Wake up. If this feels rushed to you, have you been with, like, taking a nap with Joe? Where have you been? Everyone in the community has been talking about this for months.
Wake up. Mid-Missouri, Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth. John, were you... And I was shocked. I cannot believe how dumb some of our elected city servants are. I can't believe how stupid and arrogant they are. Were you, like, surprised? You wake up and go, whoa, this didn't pass? I guess so. He's speechless. So other city council members that voted against it, Andrea Weiner. You can, and please, seriously, this is not just to be giving out phone numbers. Please call these people. Tell your friends. Andrea Weiner's phone number, 321-9219. 321-9219. So this idea, lack of transparency. Jeff Jones last week, he appeared at the Boone County Mule Skinners. He's been to meetings. He's talked to every news outlet. They've gone into different neighborhoods. And Roy Lovelady, the guy who shocked Mid-Missouri by beating long-term incumbent Carl Scala, personally like Roy Lovelady, he voted against it. One of the things he said is, hey, maybe you could have went door to door, go and knock on. They went into these neighborhoods. If the people don't show up to comment, that's on them. And I wonder, too, as I'm looking at the older woman from Ashland,
Older woman.
And I'm not saying you guys do, but I wonder, people like Andrea Weiner, Nick Foster, voted against it. He voted against it. His phone number is in the 205 area code. 205-420-8102. 205-420-8102. I'm wondering if these people, when they get up, because you can make public comments. By the way, Jefferson City Council meeting was kind of lengthy last night by Jefferson City standards. They're asking for money in the budget. That's just simply not there. Scott Spencer, Jefferson City Councilman's here at 710 to talk about this. But I'm wondering, do they go in? People get up, they make public comments. I'm wondering, in the mind of an elected city official, do they already have their mind made up when they go in and vote? When they voted on this last night, do they wait for public comment, or is their mind already made up? I wonder. It's just a question. I can't prove it one way or another.
I think it probably depends. That's not a very good answer, but
No.
I think on a big issue, I think a lot of times you go in thinking this is where I'm at. But I certainly sitting in Ashland, people have raised questions where at least I've moved off of maybe we need to make a decision to, like, maybe we need more information. Maybe I'm not fully informed here. Maybe we need to table it, which I guess some people, was it Pat Fowler who was like, maybe we need to wait. Maybe we need to take more time on this issue. I think I would have known going in, like, where I stood, and I don't think there was a lot that other people could say.
We need more time than half a year. It's just not enough to do something to enhance the safety, to help the people, especially in downtown, kind of the hub of our nightlife and downtown and the courthouse and businesses. We encourage people to come down there, and we encourage homeless people to come down there too, which is idiotic. Do these people, my goodness.
I was going to say, I think the council members, especially on a contentious issue like that, I'm not sure they all had their minds made up. We'll never know. But there were so many people at the podium last night. And again, there's definitely opposition to it in the community. There is opposition. I think there's some that truly worry that it will be used for surveillance or could be used for surveillance. The one thing we talked about, Mr. Lovelady, in his ward on Blue Ridge, is the chief who was sitting right here yesterday. The chief pointed out that homicide, and by the way, that's verified in court documents that I obtained. The homicide on Blue Ridge was captured on a residential camera. Now, we don't know who, obviously, is heavily redacted. They're trying to protect the person whose home or business it was, but that was captured on there. I think Mr. Lovelady's, he had a number of concerns, but you're right. I think he felt like the city should have gone door to door.
Yeah, and I disagree with that. That almost seems like you're campaigning for something. Off the text, 874-9390, Steve brings up a good point. Pat Fowler is racist. She is racist. Well, these cameras, they're just targeting certain demographics. Yeah, here's the demographic, people who are committing crimes. But she's insinuating that it's black people that are, by saying, well, it targets black people. Blows me away. John is finally, he's like come up underneath the cold water. He's got his words back about him. Your reaction when you heard this didn't pass?
It really doesn't. I mean, on this one, I really think it's a slam dunk. As much as the concern has been raised, and as much violence as we've seen in the last year, I thought, here's one step we can take as a community to try to make our community a safer place. And as far as people being worried about all demographics, I mean, if we're really worried about all people and all demographics, homeless people, not homeless people, white, black, doesn't matter. I'm worried about anybody who could get shot, and then we're not doing anything about it. I mean, it could happen to anybody. So let's protect the lives of everyone when we have the resources are already there, the cameras are already there. And I think too, the other thing that we've heard from the police is that snitches get stitches. And the reason why they can't get to a lot of these people is because whoever tattles then puts themselves in danger. And so we're protecting those folks who might have seen something, might have done something, but are too scared to come forward because now that person doesn't have to tattle because it's captured on video. So this is a way to protect people. And it's frustrating.
We have drawn the line from point A to point B to show you why people like Pat Fowler are idiots and dangerous, frankly, to our community. Andrea Weiner is an idiot and dangerous to our community. They're just two of the four that voted against this. One of the folks that voted in favor, City Councilman Matt Pitzer, he is here at 7:35. Let's leave with something positive. How cool is this?
New York City, in the 2022 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Mizzou students found out during the pandemic over Zoom.
My brain, it's like that nuclear explosion. Like it just was pure excitement and joy.
How cool is that? Mizzou Marching Band, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Not only are they in it, they are leading the parade. That is so cool. Welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. You can reach out and text us, especially if you're a first-time texter. We would love to hear from you this morning. We respond via on-air or via text to a good portion of our text, 874-9390. Coming up 5 minutes from now, daily D.C. rundown. So we've looked at the insanity that's happening in the city of Columbia here in mid-Missouri. Now we're going to look at some insanity that's happening in D.C.
And actually insanity that's happening in Arizona. We've covered the Senate race and the gubernatorial race, but another race in Arizona that will blow your mind.
2 weeks. 2 weeks and counting. They're watching the Sesame Street tutorial on how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 minutes from now, your daily D.C. rundown on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS.
When we called for Katie Hobbs to recuse herself over a year ago, they ridiculed us. It turns out we were right. The fox was guarding the hen house, and because of that, voters have been disenfranchised.
That's Kari Lake, who ran for governor in the state of Arizona. That is getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Kari Lake still hasn't conceded, but of course they've called the race for Katie Hobbs. And in Arizona, though, I hadn't heard about this. Apparently, there is a race for attorney general, and out of 2.6 million votes, it's come down to 510 votes. Now, if you were the person that had lost by 510 votes sitting in Arizona today, would you want a recount? In Arizona, actually, that's close enough to trigger an automatic recount, where some folks, right?
Shoot.
Well, we're still going to be waiting because apparently they have to wait to do the recount until the counties certify the results. And yesterday, a few counties delayed certifying the results, saying we're not going to actually certify till the deadline, which is November 28th. Then there'll be a recount. Then I guess the question is, will we know Georgia or Arizona?
Hey, you know that December 6th runoff? It's March 28th, 2023. We finally have a winner.
Arizona is a mess. And obviously there's a lot to be said, and all eyes are on Georgia. They're spending money like crazy already. Yesterday, Joe Biden participated in the official turkey pardon. Did you know this is a 75-year tradition, that the tradition is actually younger than Joe Biden? And are you surprised that he named the two turkeys chocolate and chip because that's his favorite ice cream? How cute.
Did you hear his joke yesterday?
Which one?
The only red wave this season is going to be a German Shepherd Commander knocks over the cranberry sauce on our table.
I chuckled a little bit. However, I find it incredibly... I can't imagine somebody like JFK or Ronald Reagan making cracks at the expense of another political party at an event like this.
Yeah, and who puts cranberry...
I could see Trump doing it.
Yeah. Well, and who puts cranberry sauce on their table these days?
Not me.
Gross. Also, the Supreme Court. You know, whenever I talk about the Supreme Court, sometimes your eyes kind of glaze over, Brandon. You're like, yeah, I don't care.
Listen, we want you to be honest, but not that honest, Steph. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. This one is... Because it gets a little bit in the weeds. This one's fun, though. The Supreme Court is hearing a dispute over a dog toy because Jack Daniels is mad. Apparently, they made this dog toy that said the old number 2 on your Tennessee carpet and said 43% poo by volume, 100% smelly, and Jack Daniels did not like that. Apparently, they are already banned from making a similar toy related to Budweiser, for those of you interested, but now they're fighting Jack Daniels.
When was the last time we mentioned whiskey in the Supreme Court of the United States in the same sense? Coming up, Arps is here. Hunter Biden, Twitter, and why it's been a very bad week for one national news outlets. We're covering that 5 minutes from now.
Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
CBS News has obtained its data not through a third party or political operative, but directly from the source who told us they provided it to the FBI under subpoena. And we commissioned an independent forensic review to determine its authenticity.
Whoa! Said the New York Post and several outlets a couple of years ago. CBS, man, going all in. This Hunter Biden laptop, we have confirmed it. The New York Post did it a long time ago. Remember, you had people like the Times and the Washington Post. They came under fire because they largely discredited it. They never corrected their own stories. And CBS comes out, hey, look at what we did. We have independently confirmed this. Whoa, look at us. I think another great example of how the national news outlets, they try to protect these progressives and liberals in Washington, D.C. Chris Arps supposed to be here. I know he's going to be hosting the Gary Nolan show today. And
I can't believe you're just going to call him out like that.
I know. Well, we've been chatting on the Facebook this morning, which is, I'm on Facebook. It's a big step for this guy. And we've been talking as, what do you want to talk about? Well, we got this, and that. We got this, and that, but what we don't have is a Christopher Arps on our show right now.
Should I try to call him again?
Sure. Should we try calling him on air?
That's what I was thinking.
Let's do it. That's why we love producer Hannah. So while she's calling Chris Arps, see where he is. I do know. Is that wrong, John?
Rude.
And let that be a lesson. If you never, if one morning you're not here hanging out with us, we're going to call you at your house.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Wow.
3, 1.
All right, cut that part out. Everybody.
I did see, and also if you're traveling and you hear us, you can call in. I had lunch last week with the state rep from out of district, and he said, when I'm at the state capitol, I like listening. I thought about calling in, and I said, you should call in. I said, Representative Rice likes to surprise us. But yeah, if we make an appointment, we will call you if you don't call us.
So here's what I would suggest you do this morning, because Chris, who's hosting the Gary Nolan show today, since he's bailed on us, you can call him. His home phone number is 314. Oh, there he is.
Keep going.
Oh no, we've already been at you for 2 minutes now. It's time to move on to the next.
You know what? I'm sitting here, doing all the crack research I do for the show so I can sound knowledgeable. And I look at my phone at 3:36:37, and I'm like, boy, they're really late today. And I was like, let me check and see if they called, because my phone sometimes doesn't ring. And I saw KSSZ. Missed the call. So I apologize to you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You see KSSE and KWOS pop on your phone, and you're like, whoa, what? Where am I? Oh, well, listen, when you have your own website, chrisarps.com, when you write for Red
ChristopherArps.com.
ChristopherArps.com. When you write for redstate.com, when you have your own afternoon show in St. Louis, when you're hosting and filling in on the Gary Nolan show, I'll give you a little bit of leeway. You're kind of busy.
You forgot Newsmax.
Newsmax TV.
Brandon, we've always known that there was going to come a day where Chris Arps was just too big for us.
I know, and these things weren't happening several years ago.
No.
I mean, look at all the things that happen now since he has been on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. He's on Newsmax TV, national news outlet, couple times a week. He's filling in on the Gary Nolan show, which can be heard almost across the entire state of Missouri. Got his own show in St. Louis. These things, they weren't happening.
Are you trying to take credit for his accomplishments? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, a little bit, but he has worked. I will tell you, and we'll move forward with some serious news stuff here. This guy, Christopher Arps, has worked incredibly hard to get to where he is today. And I love this story because so many times, well, you got people, and we saw this in Missouri this week, Chris, people striking Starbucks, and I loved what they had. I love the chant because, the soft unicorn and rainbow liberals, it's no justice, no peace, no justice. And in Missouri, we had folks threatening us with, hey, if we don't get a contract, you're not getting your coffee. And those people, we just want more money. I know that I'm a cashier, but I want to make $27 an hour because that's what I deserve. No, you don't. And I contrast that with people like Chris Arps, who busts his tail. Let me rephrase this. And I think of people like Becky Arps, who bust her tail. Because, John, behind every successful dude, there's an even stronger woman making it all happen. John, you know this.
You know what? I told you guys once. I might have told you guys. My parents had an old plaque that they bought that was on the wall, and it said, "Behind every successful man is a woman telling him he's wrong."
Let's start here then, man. CBS, they got it. I don't know what the hell CBS is doing. They have had having a very bad week. Report yesterday, trumpeting. Look, we verified the Hunter Biden laptop. Now, if you're not familiar with the Hunter Biden story, you might hear. And if you're newer to Talk Radio, man, welcome in. And if you're a regretful Biden voter, if you're a regretful Pat Fowler voter on the city council, if you regret voting for Andrea Wayner and you're trying to figure out why are my city leaders such idiots, why am I paying high gas prices, why am I paying $50 for a turkey, it's because of people like that. We appreciate you joining us. As Stephanie and I explained, this is point A to point B. This is why these things happen. Hunter Biden laptop, you'll probably hear a lot. We've heard from the national news outlets over this. Well, it's pictures of him with hookers snorting cocaine off their backs and stuff. Yeah, that's on there. I don't care about that. Do whatever you want. Put it on your laptop. Don't bother me. But the bigger issue here is, Chris, is what's in there regarding his leveraging the big guy's name for financial gain and potentially putting the United States of America at risk. Your reaction when you see CBS, they put this on Twitter. Look at us. We verified this. What's your reaction?
I was surprised and I wasn't surprised. CBS, of course, is part of mainstream media, so they're trying to protect Democrats and Biden as much as possible. But when I saw one of the reporters who wrote the story was Catherine Hetheridge, I think that's her name. She used to be Hetheridge. She used to be a reporter for Fox News.
Yeah.
So you know that she has some journalistic integrity still left. But the biggest thing that comes out of this Hunter Biden laptop story is it debunks what President Biden has said over many, many years when he said he had no business dealings with his son. He wasn't involved with that. He had nothing to do with it. And evidence on the laptop computer clearly shows that Joe Biden was involved with his son's business dealings and actually profited from them as well. So that's one, we didn't get the big red wave like we expected a couple of Tuesdays ago, but we did win the House, and that's what I can't wait to see are these Hunter Biden laptop hearings so the truth can finally get out.
Yeah. And by the way, we're still waiting on some votes in Arizona, maybe a little bit more of a red wave, something Stephanie covered in the daily D.C. rundown. We continue with another very bad week for CBS. CBS announced, I think it was Friday over the weekend, we're getting off of Twitter. Elon and now Trump, we're getting off of Twitter. 2 days later, they're back on Twitter, and they blamed it on security concerns. I'm shocked, not shocked, at the backlash to Elon Musk and Trump and Twitter. Do you sit back and laugh and eat popcorn?
I do, and I mean all of these companies and all these woke media institutions trying to say that they're going to leave Twitter and blah, 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 when they're not. Look, whether you hate Twitter, love Twitter, or whatever, Twitter is a dominant player when it comes to that type of social media platform. CBS went back. Donald Trump will eventually go back to his Twitter feed. I mean, he's got 6.4 million, I think, followers on Truth Social. He's got 80 million on Twitter. So he's eventually going to go back. That is where the microphone is. Twitter is the big dog, and until someone takes takes them off the top pedestal, they're going to be there for a while. And especially with Elon Musk, who is as creative businessman as you'll ever see, he'll turn Twitter around and make it something that we would have never expected.
Chris, you're exactly right. And I saw this tweet yesterday by someone, and it makes your point perfectly. And it says, in case Twitter doesn't survive, you can find me on McClunky Social, the Craigslist wanted ads, the comment section on Goodreads, and the corkboard outside the laundry room in my apartment building. And yeah, it's like, if you're not posting on Twitter, where are you going to post? Everyone's still posting there because that's how you reach people.
Christopher Arps.
You might as well go to MySpace.
Well, and Hannah's going, what's MySpace? Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com, hanging out with us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
No, I'm not surprised at all because, of course, if you were President Trump, you would claim that this is a political witch hunt and that Joe Biden is using the Justice Department to investigate one of his political rivals. So one way that you try to insulate yourself, of course, from that is to appoint a special prosecutor, which is supposed to be, quote unquote, independent from you. But that independent special prosecutor still reports to you and still owes you a report at the end of his investigation. So this is just political cover. Everybody sees it for what it is. I don't think it's going to shield them much from cries that this is political.
Christopher Arps. John, was that the answer you expected? All right, then you were correct. Good job.
Predictable? Wow.
All right. Hey, if you can hang out for a while, I want to mention this. We have a local prominent attorney here in mid-Missouri. As a matter of fact, she's a regular guest on the Gary Nolan Show, who's here weekdays at 9, with the exception of this morning. Yeah. She was on Facebook, and she said, hey, here's who I would like to see potentially be the Attorney General of Missouri. So we might get some of your thoughts on the Missouri Attorney General. If you can hang for a few minutes, you want to do that?
Yes, sir.
All right, Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. You can see him on Newsmax TV. And by the way, this stuff, who does become our next
I hope that President Biden will work with us, but I've seen no indication that he will. And I can't think of one problem in America today that the Biden administration is an answer to.
Twitter, yes, U.S. Senator John Kennedy. Love that guy, man. I would pay money to see him do a comedy set at a nightclub in Jefferson City. And he could be the opening act for, like, Trump. I would pay to see that. Yesterday on Twitter, I even Twittered this, and I don't get on the Twitter very often. I am at Rathert Branden. The Biden administration, we were doing a story. Missouri Farm Bureau was talking about the drastic increase in Thanksgiving this year. It's like exceeded all other increases over the years. It's just disgusting. And the White House says it's Putin's fault. I swear to God,
Give
man.
me a break.
Yeah, it's Putin's fault.
Putin price hike.
Yeah, the Putin price hike on that's why you're paying more for turkeys this year. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWS. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That guy is Christopher Arps. Website, ChristopherArps.com, filling in on the Gary Nolan Show today, starting at 9. Our Attorney General, as we have seen with the previous Attorney General, Josh Hawley, and as we have seen with Eric Schmidt, this is an incredibly, and I'm thinking, is the Attorney General more impactful than the governor is? And I'm not talking about versus partisan, but the role of Attorney General. We look at what Schmidt has done with masks, with opioids, massage parlors. This is a pretty important position in my mind, Chris.
Brandon, it's an important position, but the advantage that the Attorney General's office has, especially if you're an ambitious politician who maybe wants to run for a higher statewide office, is with the AG office, you can put out press releases every single day telling that you stop this abuse, you stop this person from committing fraud, you're doing this lawsuit against the federal government. That's why Jay Nixon and Kid Bond and a lot of our former governors started off as attorney generals, because it's really just a PR
But if you're
mine.
Well, and it has to do with the role of the attorney general. I mean, if you're the treasurer, you can also put out a press release every day. Hey,
Right.
we returned this much unclaimed property. But like the treasurer or like the lieutenant governor, hey, we're doing this thing on aging, or, Buy Missouri. Those two roles, you kind of have to like really beef them up to do important stuff.
Mhm.
But the attorney general's role, is really significant. I do think Schmidt definitely got a bump because of the Biden administration, right? If you're a Republican
Sure.
state AG and you have a Republican administration, you can't be out there suing. You're not out there suing the federal government all the time. So certainly he got a bump there. But I would say it's number 2. What do you think, Chris, in the state?
I would too. And what really showed me just how the AG's office is used for future office and how it can be used was Jay Nixon. Jay Nixon was the attorney general for 12 years, and he put out press releases on absolutely everything every day, showing that he's fighting for people on this and he's fighting for people on that. It's an important role, but it has that built-in advantage, as you can look like you're looking out for the taxpayer and for vulnerable people by some of your actions.
I want to fact check something that Steph and Chris just said. Want to run it through our Ministry of Truth. Didn't Josh Hawley dispel the rumor that the Attorney General's office is for climbing ladders? I thought he did that several years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay.
I'm not touching that.
All right, Chris.
I mean, how long? I mean, Jay Nixon served for what, 12 years? I mean, it is one.
12 years as attorney general.
Yeah, I mean, so there have been some people who have served in that office, for a long time. But again, then Jay Nixon was our governor, so it was also a stepping stone, just a longer ladder, perhaps.
And it was just one of those times where it really wasn't Jay Nixon's time within the Democratic Party to rise as governor. You had other people before him, then you had Republicans win in between. When Jay Nixon became governor, they really had no one else.
Well,
he had been in the AG for so long. Okay, it's your turn, Jay. You can have it.
Well, and now the position is about to basically leapfrog someone over a bunch of other folks. Yeah. And if there was a kingmaker in Missouri, it sure is Governor Parson. I think he has to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for most statewide elected official appointments.
Yeah.
By the way,
I want to ask this. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I've only got about 40 seconds here, Chris. I do want to mention that. I know, I'm sorry, but we could hang out here all day. Fortunately, you're back at 9 here on the Gary Nolan Show. Local prominent attorney, regular guest on the Gary Nolan Show, says, here's who I might like to see on Facebook, who I might like to see as Attorney General. Kurt Schaefer. He's an excellent attorney and knows the AGO. Terrific. Two things coming up on the Gary Nolan Show at 9 this morning.
Yeah, we're going to have Speaker Tim Jones as a guest, and we're also going to have Kira Davis, who is a deputy director, managing director with redstate.com.
right.
And today is a very special day. Do you know what today is?
I do, but I got to go. ChristopherArps.com. Who voted against FUSUS last night? It's coming up at 7:10.
Jeff Jones never wanted to give you any honest answers. Jeff Jones thought if he wined and dined half our business leaders and brought city employees out on expensive trips to see how other cities violate their citizens' privacy, that this would go through without any resistance.
That guy's an idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about. I do applaud him for going to a city council meeting here in mid-Missouri and saying, here's how I feel about this tool that would help law enforcement solve crimes. Here's how I feel about what's happening where I live. Unfortunately, that guy does not know what he's talking about. I'm stunned. You know, you always think, I learned when I was in college, I was a student, Southeast Missouri State, back in the day when we were called the Southeast Missouri State Indians, not the Red Hawks. And things weren't going well. You know, I had a lot of stuff going on personally in life. I had a brother who had died and trying to go to school, and I decided it was a good time to shack up with a young lady by the name of Ginger Keene. I was like 18 years old. Suffice it to say, things didn't go real well. But
Ginger Keene.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I was going to say, is that a real name or is that a stage name?
So when I first met this gal, we're talking, and I said, what's your name? And she said, Ginger. And I said, no, really? And she said, it's Ginger. She's from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, Sykeston, Missouri. Anyhow, and I kept saying, well, it can't get any worse than this. Can't get any worse than this.
Which you should never say, by the way.
And I learned that when I was 18 years old, college student, Southeast Missouri State University.
It can always get worse.
It can always get worse, and sometimes it will. And that's where I am with the city council this morning in the city of Columbia. People like Pat Fowler, Nick Foster, Roy Lovelady, who I personally like, and then Andrea Weiner voting against this. Please call Pat Fowler and let her, and maybe a good idea to make sure you live in her ward. Please call her 256-6841. 256-6841. I'm flabbergasted that you have something that could be this valuable to help their neighbors be safe. And Pat Fowler making racist claims. Well, it targets a certain demographic. Well, why didn't you spend some time talking about this? We first mentioned it in the news 6 months ago. It's been half a year. There were meetings. Jeff Jones, the chief of police in the city of Columbia, was on every news outlet as far as I know here in town. These people blow me away. City Councilman Matt Pitzer, 7:35 after a monstrous 5-hour meeting. He's here 7:35 by Jefferson City standards. A monstrous meeting. I think it was almost 2 hours last night. One of the things that went down last night, big thing, funding for parks.
You know, they should go through the same process of what we've already got out there now. You know, financial commitment, timeline, what the intent is. But I thought we were kind of beyond that, but my misunderstanding on that.
City Councilman Scott Spencer, veteran, by the way. Were you being facetious there at the end, Mr. Spencer, when you, and I'm just asking because I don't know. I know what I heard and what I saw, but.
Beyond that, but my misunderstanding on that.
Be honest with me. Were you being a little facetious?
Yes, I was.
All right. Thank you. Scott Spencer, city councilman in Jefferson City. So as I understand this, bottom line it for us, but I understand people are going and ask a big ask for money for parks, knowing full well the money is simply not in the budget. Can you kind of bottom line what went down last night and what this is all about?
Well, I guess my frustration really begins more of an assessment of a frustration with the procedural process. You know, this parks director comes to the council and asks for an approval to spend a wide range between $500,000 and $1.2 million. So let's put this into context here. Let's just use some good old Cole County common sense here. If I go walk into Central Bank or Jefferson Bank and I want to get pre-approved for a home loan, but I say, hey, wait, you know, I want to be minimum of my qualifications for $500,000. But I want to have my upper limit of $1.2 million. You know, that's a pretty wide range. I don't think that it's going to fly. So, you know, I was just frustrated that, you know, we couldn't get more of a finite number of what they would want us to approve. I've been told by some reliable sources that they don't have the funding to spend the upper limit of $1.2 million unless they do some major reshuffling of other dollars from other projects. So, and I think that's just a little concerning when departments do that. So, we're never given any specifics as far as a project details or construction details. When he submits information for us to vote on, he never gives any kind of background for why the request is being made, a financial impact assessment to how that's going to impact their budget. So I just think the council deserves a better final product provided by this department director.
Is there a liaison from the council that serves on the Parks Board that should be reporting that information back to the council?
There is definitely a liaison from the council. And, unfortunately, I don't think we utilize that resource very well. Maybe he has inside information that the rest of us don't have. But again, I'm not going to cast a vote unless I'm brought up to speed on what the goals and objectives are to especially spend that wide of range of funds. So, and that's where my frustration has.
Yeah.
And this is not the first project that has happened on. It's been on the caretaker's house out there for the botanical gardens as well. I'm not going to approve any future funding requests from the Parks and Rec Department until those minimum objectives are met, like all other city department directors provide for us, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm not asking for anything out of the norm here.
And this stuff is important because these are, I'm a big fan. As a matter of fact, Brianna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, quote tweeted us one time, I'm a big fan. The more, we talk about Biden and what's happening in the White House, but these local things, it really can have an effect on what is happening with us. These are your taxpayer dollars. So that's why these things are important. And Jefferson City Councilman Scott Spencer joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
And if I could just share a little bit of news here. As far as I know, I am not in the running for the Attorney General position.
Yeah, there's Kurt Schaefer, who Jennifer Bukowski, prominent local attorney. She's mentioning the name Kurt Schaefer, and that is also a very impactful position.
Councilman, we appreciate you joining us. I read the council packets on Fridays when they come out, and I primarily focus on Columbia, but I do look at Jeff City, every single item on the agenda. John Marsh does as well. And on this particular one, it's a little different. They write them a little different than the packets in Columbia, but I'm still, and I've read it multiple times, I'm still unclear on even what was discussed at the meeting last night of whatever this supplemental budget request is. So I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. You are basically saying you want the Parks Director to give more detail. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And this was on the consent agenda. And so in our pre-meeting, I gave a heads up that I would like to pull this off the consent agenda and have some discussion on it. And then once we had that discussion, it was still brought up to be voted on, and not even a roll call vote, just a yay or nay. So
a voice vote.
Yeah.
So if I may follow up, have you tried to go to the mayor or to Mr. Crowell? I almost think this rises to the level of you going to the city manager if you don't feel like you're getting enough information.
Well, here's the issue here is that the Parks Director, the Parks Department in per se, do not fall under the authority of the city administrator. That is in the city charter. So they don't have the council really doesn't have the full accountability and the authority like other city departments. And, I think the only way we're going to get this resolved is to really have some discussions on charter amendment changes. And I think, again, common sense would prevail that a department director that is in charge of a multi-million-dollar budget should fall under the same oversight that all the other department directors fall under as it relates to the city administrator. I would also like to see the commission change from an administrative commission to an advisory commission. Again, there's a parsing of responsibilities of what is really in the wheelhouse of the Parks Commission, and then what is the ultimate authority and responsibility of the City Council. And that's where we've always had these disputes. I've been having this concern since I ran for my third ward city council seat. And then even I've been bringing up this concern even after I was elected, because there's a lot of folks that I represent that believe that Parks needs more oversight. And the only way we're really going to resolve this is to have some charter amendments and let this be decided by the people.
All right. Jefferson City Councilman Scott Spencer joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our council meeting wasn't near as exciting as our counterparts and colleagues in Columbia. But, you know, I just think we have to give the tools to our public safety departments to be able to utilize and to serve our citizens better. And I think, you know, I haven't been following it real close, but I think the Columbia Police Chief has been very upfront and forward about what the intent is, what the scope of what they want to utilize that tool for. And but obviously there's a great divide in trust and transparency within certain citizens' views as it relates to the police department. So somehow that's going to have to there's going to have to be a bridge to bring that together. And I'm just grateful and appreciative that our citizens here in Jefferson City respect our public safety and appreciate everything that they do, and are very supportive of giving them the tools and resources that makes their job easier, which then in turn produces a safer community for us.
Yeah, just it's thoroughly infuriating that they would vote against something like this, and even more infuriating when people will say that the chief of police in Columbia, Jeff Jones, well, he wants to surveil people, and anything that would try to even pretend like this is nefarious is just disgusting, because that is not the chief of police in Columbia, Jeff Jones. City Councilman Scott Spencer in Jefferson City joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
So back to the parks, you were saying that you wanted more oversight. Isn't the parks governed by citizen members, by a parks board?
Yes, that is the commission.
And does the council approve those appointments? So you vote on who gets to go on the parks board?
We do. That is brought in through a process of the administrative commission. The mayor has the full authority to submit and move names forward. I have voted against certain individuals on boards and commissions because, again, you bring up another concern I have is that we've had people that specifically apply for the Parks Commission who then get leapfrogged over by other individuals that I think this mayor wants to appoint. And from what I understand, that is well within her or the mayor's responsibility and authority to do that. I just think it's a little disingenuous when we ask for people to volunteer and commit to a board and commission, and they've done that and they repeatedly have applied to be on a certain board and commission, and then, like I say, they get leapfrogged over. That is not a very good fair or transparent process.
They should really move to Ashland. We're looking for some people for our boards and commissions.
Scott Spencer, City Councilman, Jefferson City. If there's anything that we can do here at the radio station to be of service to the good tax-paying citizens here in Mid-Missouri, please let us know, okay?
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you allowing me to be on this morning. You all have a great day, and a happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, you do. Coming up, 7:25-ish, What's Hot with? And
speaking of Thanksgiving, I have an unpopular opinion. I'm excited to start controversy.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means
It's 7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah. She's stepping into a big old pile of it this morning.
Yeah, I like to start controversy on the Facebook page. That's no secret. I look forward to reigniting this controversy every year around Thanksgiving, and it involves green bean casserole and the fact that I think it's trashed. It's so gross. And some people get really defensive about their green bean casserole. Stephanie apparently also thinks it's disgusting, so we have that in common.
Mm-hmm.
It's slimy and crunchy at the same time, and I think that those are two food textures that should never go together.
You like chocolate mousse pies, creamy and crunchy? If you got a good crunchy crust. Do you like green beans?
I like green beans.
And you like cream of mushroom soup?
I don't like mushy green beans.
But you don't like it together?
Yeah.
Is the thing.
And then like the crunchy onions on top, no, you can't have mushy, slimy, and crunchy.
John, I hate to bring a news guy. We try to keep our news guys' opinions out of our news stories that we cover, but this is a big controversy based on what we're seeing on the Facebook page. Where do you land on this hot topic? Yeah. I have never made green bean casserole. If you have it, I might have some. But I've never made green bean casserole. What is Mid-Missouri saying?
Well, Timothy makes a really good point on the Wake Up Facebook page. He said, since most people only have it 2 or 3 times a year, that should answer the question.
Yeah.
But no, I would say we got a lot of comments on this post. I would say there's more people saying that they like green bean casserole than people saying they don't like it, but it is pretty close.
Also, have you ever been to a restaurant with green bean casserole on the menu?
Yeah. That's an excellent point, John.
Now, corn casserole is chef's kiss.
I'm taking that to my Thanksgiving. It's my fave.
Green bean casserole, no thanks.
Corn casserole you're on board with?
Oh, yeah.
It's all similar textures. There's no crunch and slimy at the same time.
After hearing that, I don't think I'm going to stick around all day today. I'm going to leave early after hearing your guys' affinity.
Bye.
Coming up, we need to call Steve's Pest Control on members in City Council in Columbia, what they did last night, coming up 5 minutes from now.
The main thing I think everyone has missed in this whole picture seems to be these cameras are already in place. They're already recording. We're talking about a system that's going to combine all these cameras to help our police department do a better job.
Last night's city council meeting in Columbia. I think a stunning turn of events. Listen, you never know what's going to happen in Columbia, but after what I heard from people like Pat Fowler, Andrea Weiner last night, I'm more and more convinced. Somebody told me years ago, liberalism, these progressives, it's a mental issue. And I laughed. Oh, that's just a conservative talking point. I honestly believe people like Pat Fowler, who likes to hear herself talk, who doesn't want to do anything to try to enhance the safety, especially in the hub of Columbia's entertainment district, the downtown business district, when you have Nikki Davis, head of the downtown business district, saying, dear God, please help us vote in favor of FUSUS, and Pat Fowler, well, how come you didn't spend more time talking? It targets a certain demographic, wink, wink, of people. I am thoroughly convinced people like Andrea Weiner and Pat Fowler are conceited beyond belief, and they have mental issues. Stunned to see FUSUS being rejected. 4-3 vote last night. City Councilman Matt Pitzer is to be applauded, as is Mayor Barbara Buffalo.
I knew I liked her.
Barbara Buffalo voted in favor of this, as did Betsy Peters.
And I'm not surprised. I tried to, Randy Tober, and I know you joined Randy on a segment yesterday, but Randy asked me to sit in with him when he interviewed the mayor, and I did ask her, trying to a point-blank question, how she thought it would go and how she'd vote. And she didn't give us a specific answer, but she all but said she was going to vote for it. But Branden, the one thing we knew yesterday is that we knew it'd be close, and we knew, and I thought the mayor would come down to the final vote. The Lovelady vote surprised me.
I was a little surprised by that. It's like,
yeah, that vote surprised me.
Listen, AOC and Elon Omar, they got nothing on Pat Fowler and Andrea Weiner and maybe even Nick Foster. That's the Mid-Missouri squad. And please call these people. Pat Fowler's phone number, and let them, and preferably you'll live in her ward. Pat Fowler's phone number is in the 573 area code. Please call 256-6841. That's 256-6841. Please call Andrea Weiner, 321-9219. 321-9219, and let them know how sickening that is regarding their choices last night. And this is almost like the Super Bowl of city council meetings, man. They covered homelessness. They covered the Citizens Police Review Board.
Pickleball came up too.
Matt Pitzer, what happened with the pickleball stuff? City Councilman Matt Pitzer joining us on the show. What's the verdict on pickleball from last night's city council meeting?
Well, we're going to build a pickleball court in the middle of a roundabout in your neighborhood, Branden.
Points for Mr. Matt Pitzer. That gets a big round of applause. Personally, I know you have kids. I know you have a lovely family. You've lived and worked here in Columbia for a lot of years. I see that your family, you adopt like some medians, long form. I know you guys do a lot of stuff. Your city council hat aside, like, how does this, you come home or you wake up this morning after that massive 5-hour meeting last night and you tell your wife and your kids this kind of crap, like, how does that affect you seriously, personally?
Well, I just wish that we would have done something that could have helped make our community safer. I mean, you mentioned Nikki Davis from the downtown district, but we also had Brian Yearwood from Columbia Public Schools. We had the chief of police from the University of Missouri. I mean, there are just, a lot of entities and groups, across the city who are asking us to just say, hey, please, do this. I mean, people are concerned about their safety, and this is something that can help the police do their job a little bit better. And so why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we take that one small step, and giving them this tool to help them do a little bit better. So that's just something that I wish that we would do. In terms of personally, it's kind of this feeling that I don't know. I almost feel like I'm getting like sideways glances from, even though how I voted, people are like, really? Like, is this what the governing body of our city is doing? Like, making votes like this. And so I just kind of, so I'm disappointed in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Councilman, we appreciate you joining us live. We had a triple shooting the Friday night before homecoming downtown. High-profile incident. We don't know much about two of the people that were shot. We do know that a young man, a Mizzou student, we learned from the Downtown Leadership Council, was shot in the armpit and almost was killed based on their letter. They did, DLC did come out in favor of it. You're absolutely right, Dr. Yearwood there as well. I do want to ask you about the opposition to it, which primarily came from a couple of people, but some of it has to do with the gentleman who got up at the podium. Branden played the soundbite. And we don't know his name, but he got up and said that the chief of police, Jeff Jones, wined and dined business leaders, took them out to dinner. I don't know what he was trying to get at, but that's what he said. He wined and dined people in the business community to try to get this through. Do you, A, your response to that, and B, what's he referring to there?
Well, he might be referring. There was a trip of business owners or operators. I think they're mostly in the downtown district, I think Nikki and then a few others. I think they went to maybe Atlanta, I want to say, and they saw this FUSUS program in action, so they could take a look at it and say, hey, is this something that we actually want to do? So I think that's probably, what he was referring to. So that's, and it's unfortunate too. I mean, there were a number of, I felt like were personal attacks against Chief Jones, and I mean, look, I get it if you don't like this idea of this technology, of this tool, of using it. Chief Jones, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I mean, he's out. I mean, the guy never sleeps. Yep. He works incredible hours, trying to do any little thing he can just to make our city a little bit safer. And so I really applaud him for everything that he's done. And I hate seeing people, come out and take shots at him.
Yeah, and that's why I find it, and some of these people, we can sit here, and I don't like to call people names, especially when people people like Pat Fowler, Elon Omar, and people like Andrea Weiner Cortez can prove how stupid they are and how stupid some of the people that voted for them are when they talk about, Jeff Jones, he's surveillance and all this. Jeff Jones, we met Jeff Jones several years ago before he was ever police chief because we got wind of an officer helped a young mother of two young kids stranded rush hour traffic, I think on I-70. He stopped and he picked them up. He took the kids to daycare to school. He took that woman, walked into that woman's work with her so they knew that she was being honest about why she was late. Then he went and bought her a battery. The officer who did that is now the chief of police in Columbia, and frankly, it's incredibly disgusting whenever people say it. Shows you they don't know what they're talking about. I also want to make sure that we applaud Brian Yearwood. I want to applaud Columbia Public Schools District. He was there. He spoke. How less combustion would there have been to the story of the graffiti on the restroom walls a couple of weeks ago? If maybe that we could have been watching some of this stuff in real time. It's just frustrating.
No, I'm incredibly frustrated. I mean, I think it's been, the primary concern of residents of Columbia over the last year is this issue. And back to this trip, I mean, wouldn't we have also gotten criticism? I mean, from the downtown perspective, I love the fact that they went to a city to talk to people, because it's one thing to get the presentation from the folks like the FUSUS people themselves to get like the fancy brochure. And it's another thing to go and talk to the business owners that actually use this and the people on the streets to see what they really feel about the system itself. And I think had they not done that, I would be asking more questions. And I think that was my very first question 6 months ago to the chief was, are there other communities doing this? What do they think about it? So I'm glad that people from our community went to another community to really dig down and say, is this working for you? I think the comments about that are completely unfounded.
As an attorney, how cool is it when you have, let's say, somebody on stand and you're trying to make a point and they've just made it for you? And that's what these people like Pat Fowler, Andrea Weiner, that's what they've done. And the folks that voted for them and spoke against this last night, they just absolutely don't know what they're talking about.
So last night, did anyone offer a solution? So we're not going to do this system. We know we have a violence problem. So besides just saying not this, did anyone offer an alternative of how we address the ongoing violence?
Well, we did wind up voting to ask for some more information about. There was another proposal or idea that somebody brought up about an ordinance that sort of governs how video is used by police, and I don't even really completely understand it. But that's something that ask the legal department to look into and come back on. So I wound up voting for that, even though I don't really understand it, just because it seemed like the only path forward, in maybe getting back to this place. So somebody said, hey, if we had that sort of overarching ordinance in place, then maybe there could be a use for this FUSUS tool, under the auspices of that broad ordinance.
Well, it took us 7 years, 7 years in running to figure out trash, so I have no hope for FUSUS. City Councilman Matt Pitzer in Columbia, I wanted to ask you, and I try to be careful. I don't want to bring folks into controversy and surprise them with questions, but one of the other big things we've been talking about on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning, green bean casserole, yay or nay?
No.
Okay. Matt Pitzer,
No.
anything we can do for you, please let us know.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, I did want to say, you had been mentioning Pat and Andrea, and I'm going to, stick up for Andrea.
Okay.
I mean, she is she's an incredible person, and I disagree with her on this. I've disagreed with her on some other things, but she works incredibly hard. She's got a family that she is, busting her hump for, and she's got a lot of personal things going on. And I have a lot of respect for her, even though I disagree with her, and I probably will disagree with her again. So I just wanted to, make that distinction between the two people.
Thank you. And I appreciate you saying that. So Matt Pitzer, City Councilman, says he has respect for Andrea Weiner and the work that she does. And I want to make sure that people say, yeah, I heard Andrea Weiner get some respect on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. City Councilman, thank you so much for your time. Have a great Thanksgiving.
All right, thanks. You too.
And we'll put you down as a nay on green bean casserole.
Brandon.
I thought the most telling in those comments there when he said, hey, I want to make sure, that I stick up for Andrea. And he didn't say the same about Pat Fowler.
No, he did not. There's one thing that we should mention, too, very quickly, in that you asked him, or Stephanie asked the follow-up question about what they would do next, and it would be, he voted for it because he doesn't understand. And I didn't understand it either listening to it, but that alternative proposal, and I'm still very unclear on what it would be. It would be another system, but it would not be supervised by the CPD. They wouldn't run, if I heard it right, they would not run or oversee the video coming in. It would be citizens that would oversee it. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, it'd be December Harmon from the Citizens Police Review Board. That would be beautiful.
I think we also need to fact check you really quickly, Brandon.
Yes.
Because you said it took us 7 years to figure out trash, and I would just like for the record to say that we have not. Did we figure trash out?
Yeah, I think that,
I don't think we're there yet.
Been fact checked. Thank you. Appreciate that. We've run that through the Ministry of Truth, and it's been longer than 7 years, and we haven't figured it out. And they're just now learning. Oh, and people don't like the trash bags, man. Blows me away. Somebody who's got a hot take on this. That's coming up 5 minutes from now. And the big debate rages on this morning. Green bean casserole, yay or nay? It's coming up 5 minutes from now.
I don't like Thanksgiving food. I said it. Of all the dinners that you could eat at 11 a.m., you're choosing turkey? There are so many foods. And this is the meal you've settled on? Are you sure? It's the driest of all meats. Off the top of my head, food's better than Thanksgiving food. Pizza, steak, bowl of cereal, a bag of chocolate chips, cinnamon rolls, Stouffer's lasagna is nice, mac and cheese, Tina's burritos, air.
Good point. You know, I never thought about it that way. If you're picking something to eat for a big feast, friends and family at 11 o'clock in the morning, why turkey? It's a good point. I love it. Welcome to the show. I can do without sweet taters, beets, and what's the other?
You're wrong on beets.
What's the other slimy, red, disgusting stuff besides
cranberry
the beets?
sauce?
Yes.
But one of our listeners texted in and he said the verdict on green beans is because green bean casserole, you don't eat it very often, and that's right. When else do you have like turkey? You only eat it once a year because you're forced to, because you feel like some sort of obligation. If it was good, you'd eat it more often.
Who's been into new dating relationships? Hey, come over. We'll bake some green bean casserole and beets. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's John Marsh, producer Hannah Stephanie Bell. I am Branden Rathert. Want to wrap up here real quick. Columbia Police Officers Association, Matt Nichols, disturbing decision, in my opinion, City Council last night. By the way, even though Andrea Weiner voted against this, I'm grateful that City Councilman Matt Pitzer said, hey, you know, we disagree on that, but Andrea Weiner works hard, and I appreciate what she is doing. Matt Nichols, Columbia Police Officers Association, your reaction.
Good morning, Branden, and everyone there. When I got up this morning, I started to feel disappointment that the City Council as a whole chose not to go forward with the FUSUS program. But it's not disappointment. It's utter disgust. Yeah. I am disgusted with the display from some council people, the way they treated Chief Jones, the way they treated City Manager Seawood, the way that they treated some community members. I'm disgusted. This is just, the kangaroo court, interrogation that one city council person had with the chief of police, it makes me sick. And I just want to put that out there, and I hope that there are community members that are disgusted like I am, and I want to encourage them to contact me directly.
All right, can I give them the cell phone number that we have here for you? Okay, I will hand out that number because I do have to move forward here. So I can give out your cell phone number here on air.
Go for it.
All right, that's the number that ends in 1148.
That's it.
Okay, Matt, Columbia Police Officers Association, thank you, and God bless you for what you guys do. And I'm assuming that he is talking about Pat Fowler Omar. Pat Fowler Omar. CPOA's phone number, Matt Nichols, 573, area code 673-1148. 673-1148. Whole bunch of lawsuits in the state of Missouri, all centering around one thing. What is that one thing? Steve Spellman joins us at 8:10 to discuss.
I was having to pull out like electrical sockets that are just burned. Everything's toast, and it just makes me realize how lucky I am.
I really like to try and help these people clean up and like have a fresh start. I just think it would be really good for everyone in this town. And I think it's just a really good learning experience for everyone who's helping here.
I love that. It's easy to criticize teens. When I was a teen, my generation got criticized. When Stephanie was a teen, her generation was criticized. Hannah's generation gets criticized. My dad's generation, when they were teens, they were criticized. Some teenagers talking to our news partners at ABC 17. Some teens with Tolton Catholic High School in Wooldridge yesterday. Over 30 of them showed up, and they're still that 3,000, 3,000. I need to add some more. Zero. Can I buy a zero? 3,000-acre wildfire last month. Folks still cleaning up from that. Last I saw in one of our reports from our news partners at ABC 17, they were interviewing a couple that was living in a tent in Wooldridge because they lost their place. I think it's remarkable. These kids apparently on Thanksgiving break, and they're going and doing stuff and getting involved, and we're always big fans here. Stephanie's involved. You do what do you do? What's some of your things you do?
With respect to what?
Everything. She's an elected politician. Serves on the. She's an older woman from the city of Ashland.
Older.
She does charitable work. She's involved. Producer Hannah. She works with kids on a daily basis. We talk about getting involved, whether it's politics, whether it's going to a pachyderm meeting, whether it's volunteering for charity. It's always stuff you do. Brian Houseworth, he gets involved in that the bowling event for autism every year. John Marsh, he's always doing it. John Marsh been here in mid-Missouri for over 30 years being involved. So I love that. Wanted to highlight that here as we get ready for Thanksgiving. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I know you feel very passionate about this issue of FUSUS, and I know a lot of our listeners do too. The biggest thing I would say is whatever their position is when they call the council members, to be respectful. You want to be respectful.
Don't go and call them things like Pat Fowler Omar. That's rude. Don't do that.
But certainly you want to be respectful. I don't know. This is one of those issues. I could see it possibly coming back, but you never know, and it might come back in a different form.
Well, trash bags and trash systems and roll carts coming back for 8 years now. I'm sure it'll come back.
We'll start talking about it.
Welcome into the show. We are so glad you are here. One of the big things, so less than 2 weeks ago, we had an election. One of the big things, obviously, in Missouri, besides our new U.S. Senator, besides local elections, the legalization of recreational weed. So now this is kind of against the backdrop. Medical marijuana had only been in effect for a couple of years, and that's one of the, I think as everybody, the majority of people, it's not even a moral issue anymore, the majority of people on board with legalized recreational THC. Nuts and bolts is what some people had issues with, and one of those nuts in this story over the past year has been, well, what about the people with the medical marijuana license? How's this going to work out? Want to bring in Steve Spellman. You see him write a lot for the Columbia Missourian. You see him write a lot for Como Buzz. He is somebody active in the community. You see him at a lot of political events. I appreciate the guy personally for his involvement. What's happening as it relates to medical marijuana lawsuits now that we've got recreational weed that's going to be legal in January?
Yeah, good morning, Brandon. Glad to be with you here. What caught my attention was a story in the Post-Dispatch, which yesterday, and it's hard for me to say I agree with something in Post-Dispatch. Maybe abnormal for one thing, but it's talking about the new recreational marijuana program, and kind of looking back at the medical marijuana program that you were talking about a second ago. They haven't figured that piece out. There's this really complicated licensing regime, and there's reports here that there's about 880 active lawsuits still. People that applied for a license and got denied. The licensing review program, they can't tell you why they approved somebody or they didn't approve others. It has here in the article that there were about 2,200 marijuana business applications that were filed, but only less than 400 were approved. If you can imagine this, I mean, if you were going to open a restaurant and they say, well, there's 2,000 applicants to open a restaurant in Missouri, and they say, less than 400. That's all we need. It's like, well, that's stupid for one thing. But also it's like, well, why did you pick 400? What was the criteria? Well, we can't tell you. And now the folks, and part of this recreational marijuana piece is it actually piggybacks on that. And so favors the folks that got the medical marijuana license, kind of fast-tracks them to get the very lucrative recreational marijuana license. So we got, all the bad stuff that many free market folks talk about where you have business licenses that are issued by the government. This is just a poster child for that type of thing.
All right, our guest is Steve Spellman talking about the medical marijuana. Did I hear you right? Almost 1,000 lawsuits still out there?
Yeah, almost 900 active lawsuits. And people that, hey, we got denied a license. Can you tell us why? No, can't.
All right.
And some won't even a hearing until next spring. This will take years.
The other thing I was wondering, and maybe kind of outside the purview necessarily of this, but I've just been mostly curious, is now that we have rec weed legal here in marijuana, has anybody, and if so, I'd love to get a text from you at 874-9390, but I don't know, have you heard, or you, and I'll ask you personally, Steve, and the people you deal with professionally, has anybody heard about, like, workplaces coming out and reminding, by the way, we do have this policy in place. Now, I get it, truck driver, if you fly airplanes, maybe I prefer you not on the weed. But has anybody heard anything about workplaces coming out and reminding folks about what marijuana usage policy is regarding the workplace?
I haven't in Missouri yet, but that's going to be a thing. It absolutely is. In other states, Colorado and others, they've been having this rolled out. And Stephanie might have more information from a legal standpoint.
Well, and I know it came up at the Board of Curators meeting at Mizzou last month. They said, hey, remember, it's a drug-free campus. And they actually said, I think it's going to get bumped to the next Board of Curators meeting where they decide exactly how to merge their current policy with this new law.
Yeah.
Brian?
So students on campus,
Yeah, Steve, we appreciate you joining us live. I want to follow up on something Steve Branden mentioned about, the majority of people. And Brandon's right. It passed statewide, but if you look at county by county, the only reason this thing passed, guys, is because of St. Louis City County and Kansas City. It failed in every single county with the exception of a couple, including Greene and Boone. But I've gone through these counties again one by one, and it failed in every single rural county, one after another after another. The overwhelming majority of rural people don't want this. But yet it passed overwhelmingly. It passed by 40,000 votes in St. Louis City, passed by about 80,000 votes in St. Louis County, Steve. There is a huge rural-urban split on this issue.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think you have a lot of cultural issues as well. I think you go downtown Columbia. I'm sitting downtown Columbia right now in my car waiting for a meeting. But you go around here, and if you know what the smell of marijuana is, it's like around. It's being used and so forth, but you go to Versailles or rural Howard County, maybe people off in the corner or something. I think, again, it gets confused with or lumped in with a lot of other very dangerous drugs. I know a gal from Poplar Bluff and Ozarks. There's a lot of towns where serious drugs are a bad problem, whether it's meth or fentanyl. That people are dying of that sort of thing. And, marijuana, I think, is in a different category to a significant degree. You do have different perceptions on a lot of things in the rural, urban divide, I would say.
Yeah, and the fentanyl that comes across from Mexico through our secure borders, according to Biden.
Yeah, that's all another thing. Yeah.
From Majorca. The border's secure. I know kids are dying all across Missouri, but that border's secure. They're dying from fentanyl overdoses. Hey, in light of some events here on the show this morning, Steve, do you think that maybe you could come in and hang out with the crew tomorrow? Hang out with Steph and Hannah and Mr. Marsh and Brian. Can you come and
yeah, it sounds like a good plan. In fact, we've got a good group of folks and some friends going to be coming through. Let folks know that I think Stephanie will be out as well, and that's big shoes to fill. But I scored State Representative Sarah Walsh. She'll be hanging out with me tomorrow morning there on the program. So that'll be fun. We got a parade of folks. I think Congressman like Vicky Hartzler. I think we got Jay Ashcroft. I think Hannah just lined up. So, and some other folks. So, but the theme I think tomorrow will be, what are you thankful for? We got a lot of problems in this country. Yep. You look at the White House; it's a basket case. But there's a lot to be thankful for in this free country. So we'll try to have a positive, upbeat tone as well.
Amen. That's Steve Spellman. He's going to apparently be coming in and doing the show tomorrow morning. Marsh, you good with that, buddy? Okay. Steve.
Yeah, I have fun with John,
I don't have a problem with John.
It'd be good stuff, yeah.
Hey, Steve Spellman, thank you so much for joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, take care, guys.
All right, we'll see you, bud. A lot of times we say, we salute veterans, we appreciate what they do and things like that. And last night I heard a story, and it reminds me, because it's easy to say, we just recently celebrated Veterans Day, and here at Zimmer we do our Central Missouri, we support Central Missouri Honor Flight to the tune, I think, over the past 5-7 years now, we're approaching, maybe almost approaching, we're not there, but well over $500,000 in what we've done there. And it's stories like this that I go, that's why we salute veterans. At Club Q shooting in Colorado Springs, one of the folks who helped stop that dude after he'd already killed 5 people, he was an Army veteran. His name is Richard Fierro. He is a 15-year Army veteran, and shared on CNN kind of what was going down at the scene over the weekend.
I proceeded to take his other weapon, the pistol, and then just start hitting him where I could, but the armor's in the way. And I found a crease between his armor and his head, and I just started wailing away with his gun. And then I told the kid in front of me, kick him, keep kicking him. And I was guiding him. I was telling people, call 911, call 911. I brought him down. I was in mode. I was doing what I do downrange. I trained for this. I don't want to ever do this. I didn't even retire because I was done doing this stuff. It was too much.
15-year Army veteran Richard Fierro, and later he goes in and he gets really brokenhearted about what he saw and what he did. So that's why we, at least me, likes to salute the veterans. I thought that was really cool. Coming up 5 minutes from now, Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell. Business news, little twist. Only Stephanie Bell could do. What you serving up this morning along with the green bean casserole?
A company with ties to Colombia is the second story on the Wall Street Journal today. Second most popular.
All right, second most popular. So 8:26, time for the Morning Bell. Business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
So I'm watching the futures this morning on the Wall Street Journal homepage, and they are up slightly, but I was surprised to see on the number 2 list of most popular articles a hit piece on Beyond Meat. I mean, that's really what it is, on about Beyond Meat. And the article has a shout out to the University of Missouri. It says, as he started his company, Mr. Ethan Brown licensed a process developed by University of Missouri researchers that combine proteins from plants into a molecular structure, blah, 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 fake meat. Anyway, so a shout out to the University of Missouri and the number 2 story on the Wall Street Journal, obviously. So basically they're saying, they're having all these problems. Beyond Meat's very real problems, slumping sausages, mounting losses. A lot of businesses are struggling with inflation and everything else, and with their expansive growth. They've got some hiring issues. They had a executive issue that we covered, a couple months ago, but really.
You mean the executive issue? That's politely saying an executive bit a dude's nose at a football game in Arkansas.
And they've had some other executive shakeups, but as I'm reading through, I see the success of this company that, really wouldn't be in existence without the University of Missouri. And so they're saying they got to $465 million in sales by 2021. They initially had a 3,000 square foot office space. They now are moving into a $150 million campus that's 300,000 square feet. So they have had some layoffs. They are feeling the effects of inflation right now. They've expanded all over the world. They're saying they had some issues in Europe because I guess Europe's refrigerators aren't as cold as ours, which I didn't really know.
They barely have any power or energy right now.
So some growing pains, but overall, I'm thinking $465 million in sales. What a success. That huge campus. I mean, sure, with any business, you're going to have struggles, and it kind of details that. But I was pleased to see, how incredibly huge this business has become, starting right here in little Columbia, Missouri.
And that's the thing, you say what you will about fake meat or whatever, and I haven't tried it. I don't have a desire to try it. But I think there's something like this. It shows the importance was, okay, you've got the University of Missouri, and you can say what you will, as people would say about most any very stereotypical liberal college. It puts out liberal journalists, and that's why we see what we see now with CNN and USA Today and MSNBC in the medical facilities, the one named after Senator Roy Blunt. But with that hub and with Lincoln University and the knowledge and the scientists, they come through mid-Missouri and fly into
COU.
Columbia Regional Airport. See how I think we've done okay in packaging this up.
It's coming together. Well, and I think, and so basically the Wall Street Journal is saying, well, they need to return to their core products, like get back to just meat. Apparently they tried to do jerky and that didn't go so well. But I think we're seeing a lot of folks, as we see the economy tighten, trying to return to what the very core of their business is. And I think that's probably a smart strategy for Beyond Meat. It's also apparently a strategy for Walt Disney. They're returning to their previous CEO, which has also made big news recently. And I'm thinking, what if you were that interim guy and they're like, yeah, we don't like you so much, and we're not even going to get a new guy. We're going to go back to the old guy.
Like from the movie Office Space. Hey, about your reign as leader here at Disney. You hear these people saying you go woke, you go broke. We're going to, you went on The View and you've been battling with the Senate. We're going to get away from that. What's coming up 5 minutes from now? Stuff.
We're going to save you some money over the holidays. A new program launched in partnership with MoDOT. Stephanie Bell in for Branden Rathert. You are listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And y'all, should we do the good news or the bad news first?
I don't have a preference. Maybe the bad news first.
The bad news first.
Does there have to be bad news?
In this, under Joe and in this economy, unfortunately, yes. And I was hoping that we could avoid this, but Politico is reporting that we are going to have potentially a railroad problem. Apparently, the largest rail unions have split on the contract vote. Apparently, we narrowly avoided this earlier in the year. Now strike concerns are heightened. Brian, what do we know about this?
You know, it's one of those things that is still very early on, and we've seen it avoided before. It's complex because you're talking about unions. Technically, the federal government could step in. I mean, President Truman did that in 1950, actually stepped in when the railroads were going to go on strike during the Korean War. I don't know if this particular president will. I think he would have the authority to do so because it is a national security issue. But it involves a number of issues, primarily wages, et cetera, safety issues. But this seems to happen more and more, and I don't know that they'll actually strike, but they certainly could.
The bad news, I think, is if this strike goes forward, agricultural shippers would be completely reliant on waterways and trucks. And as we've been talking about this week, our food prices are already through the roof, so that would not be good. They also said earlier in the year when a strike was imminent that shipments of hazardous and security-sensitive materials will basically go on hold. That includes chemicals for drinking water, fertilizers, which we know has been an issue for the agricultural industry, and then hospital-grade disinfectants, right as we are facing lots of respiratory viruses. So let's hope we can avoid that bad news. But something else interesting, and I know, it seems kind of, when we talk about railroads, I think, well, that doesn't really affect me here in Missouri. I don't ride the Amtrak that much, but I didn't realize how important the industry is to Missouri. And I went to a downtown Rotary meeting right there at Miller Performing Arts, and they had a presentation by someone at MoDOT about Missouri and railroads, and I had no idea. So I had to look up the stats because I've since forgotten them. I knew they were important, but Missouri has the 10th largest number of railroad miles in the United States with 4,800 miles of track. And 20 freight railroads operate in the state. And this is the really important thing, carrying the 4th largest amount of freight tonnage in the nation. We rank 4th about what comes through the state. And so although, when I hear the railroad strike on the news, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it would really affect Missouri in particular.
Yeah, it would. There's no doubt about it. And it has a huge presence. Here in Boone County, to a certain extent, as John knows, in Jefferson City, even bigger, Union Pacific has that line that goes straight basically across right there in front of the Capitol. And then you get to our north, Burlington Northern, Norfolk Southern, and they change those names. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And they go through, and then there's a line that goes through Higbee. But yeah, it would have a huge impact. Again, it could be a little saber rattling right now, but certainly that could happen. But technically, I mean, President Truman did show that you could step in. Now, granted, that was actually during a huge war, but he did step in.
Yeah, and I guess Politico is reporting, too, that Congress could step in, but that they're not back until November 29th. And so there's a really short window between when they're back and the strike, which is possible in early December, to get anything done. Right. And I think expecting Congress to, get anything done at this point, I'm not going to hold my breath. Okay, so enough of the bad news, right? John, we are getting some good news about MoDOT over the holiday season, and I had not heard about this before, but I am liking it. What's going on there? Which I sparked a debate the other week on my Instagram. I was trying to ask people what people have different names for that night. What is, Hannah, you're young. What is because it is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is like the biggest party night ever. I know my bar owner friends hate that night because it's good for business, but I know a lot of people, amateur night, that's a good one. I've heard like Devil's Night. Is there an official term, Hannah?
I don't know. I do not go out to bars. I'm lame. I don't know.
And I don't know that it has a formal name either, but it seems, I don't remember that being a big night when I was growing up. Of course, I don't go to bars either, but I don't remember it being a big night. But I do know that for whatever reason, Jefferson City, it seems to be a bigger issue. Yeah. Yeah, and I know that police in Jeff City specifically are out in force, and they're looking for, and I'm sure in many other communities, Jeff City for sure, they'll be out looking for that. But I don't know what the formal name of that is. But just if they're going to do that, please get a cab or a Lyft. You don't want to get yourself hurt, and somebody else as well. That's not good.
So yeah, after dinner till the early morning hours, apparently you are able to get a $10 Lyft credit.
Good for them.
It's actually being paid for by grant money. Missouri is one of 4 states sharing $80,000 in total grant funding. That will aid if you need a ride. You can do Lyft. Of course, there are other options as well, but we encourage you to do that. Drinksgiving? Okay. We might have to vote on what the okay. It's where you like reconnect or don't reconnect with all your high school friends, maybe. Everyone's back in their hometown. Yeah. All right. We will settle that debate at some point. Brian, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, tell me about, so we've talked a lot about the I-70 connector while we're on transportation, and I think that, is moving. What's happening here at Grindstone on South 63?
That issue was first read last night, Stephanie, at the council meeting, and I did touch on it last week. I would have focused it again on it today, but we've had just so much at the council meeting. But I'll talk about it again in detail in probably 2 weeks when it goes back up for a vote. But Reader's Digest version, there is a $9 million proposal from MoDOT. They will use loops to basically they're going to relocate Lenoir where the home is, the home there on Lenoir. They'll relocate that. And then the biggest change people would see, and they're looking to start construction in 2024, 2025, the biggest change would be, and I'll try to explain this quickly, but as easy as I can, you would no longer be able to, so if you were driving eastbound on, this is where the problem area is, if you were driving eastbound on Grindstone heading to New Haven Road, instead of taking a left by the Courtyard by Marriott, which is just, it's a disaster right now. You can't get out of there. It's just horrible. You would have to turn a right, and you would loop around under the new interchange. They think that will take a lot of things off.
I'm already directionally challenged, so when I have to go the opposite direction of where I need to end up, I really end up turned around.
And then also, we have heard, and MoDOT is still hearing the same thing, that Quick Trip wants to build a big facility where the laser lanes used to be. That's still not confirmed yet.
We're getting a QT?
They've looked at that for sure, with for sure, and it hasn't been confirmed whether they'll proceed. But the other thing that MoDOT has talked about is Ponderosa, which is a couple of blocks down, basically going down to that apartment complex. That is also a huge area. So this will help, looking at $9 million.
Now, timing on that. When would we expect that to actually happen?
If the council gives the green light in a couple of weeks, and they expect to because they need to do it, it's a formality, it's the MoDOT project, they're looking at construction sometime starting in 2024, 2025. About the same time, and then also Roachport Bridge will still be worked on at that time. You're talking about huge. Obviously, I-70-63 is bigger than the one at Grindstone, but I will tell you that it is impossible, not hard, it is impossible to get off of Lamone Industrial and to take, a left is definitely impossible. Even taking a right by the Courtyard by Marriott at certain times of the day, you have to drive all the way down to basically through the industrial park to go down to Stadium. You can't get out through here. So it's bad. It's really bad. Ideally, I wish I could speed that up, but they've got to get the funding together.
All right, so some important transportation updates coming your way in mid-Missouri. In just a few minutes, we will be doing leftovers. John, you got anything in your fridge? All right, let's do it. All right, Stephanie Bell in for Branden Rathert. It is time for leftovers. All of the stuff that we didn't get to this morning, there's a lot of it. John, what do you got in your fridge?
What?
Oh.
Wow.
This was a Springfield man or a Florida man? Just checking. And you said a cutoff shirt, but isn't that basically just a crop top? So let me get this straight. He's got a gray crop top, blue gym shorts, and one shoe. Was it a Croc? What kind of shoe? And a birth certificate. A birth certificate and a highlighter, apparently.
Did he just need an extra scrap piece of paper laying around? And that was what was next to him? I mean, come on.
I mean, talk about bold. Yeah, committing a crime with an ankle bracelet. On bold or stupid, I guess. Hannah, what's in your leftovers fridge?
Well, I know that we covered this a little bit this morning, and we have most of this week, but Marching Mizzou, of course, is headed to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. I saw on Facebook last night that they're actually leading the parade off. Yes. Wow. And they're going to be playing Sheryl Crow's All I Want to Do.
Oh, that's
and they'll
cool.
be leading the parade. So that's really cool for Marching Mizzou. I'm excited for them.
Hannah and I are closet marching band nerds. I played the clarinet. What'd you play, Hannah?
I was low brass.
John, did you ever play in the band? Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so I enjoyed very much so the marching band. I know that's got to be stressful with all the cameras and the stopping and the going. I did the Orange Bowl parade, I think, in high school, and I just remember like there was a lot of waiting and a lot of lead up to the parade. Did you march in a parade, Hannah? Like a big one?
No, we just did like a couple band competitions every year of high school.
Nice.
Marching Mizzou will actually be back in Columbia for Friday's football game.
Wow.
So they will be in New York City Thursday morning and then back in Columbia Friday morning, basically.
Well, good. Well, hopefully everyone at the game gives them lots of love for the national stage performance on Thursday. So tune in to see Marching Mizzou. I know all right. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. I always enjoy the Thanksgiving parade anyway. So very exciting. I also saw something that I've been watching, and I need, they always give you a reason to buy the new iPhone every time, whether it's like a new charger or like a new
better camera.
Yeah, that's the one they like to do. Now, iPhone 14 has a satellite emergency SOS, which I really like this feature. So, especially living in Missouri, if you say you wanted to call 911, but maybe you are hiking or you're somewhere in my problem is always national parks. When I'm in a national park, my phone never works. And so say you have an issue, well, you have no phone service. So how do you, alert someone that you're having an issue, right? Why are you laughing at me?
I'm just waiting to see where this goes. I don't know how often you're in national parks, but
I went to 5 national parks last year.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Right. And there are spots in rural Missouri where you literally do not have any service. Anyway, your phone, now your iPhone, will have satellite emergency SOS. It's a little bit clunky, but if for some reason you have no service, you can, use satellites, and it kind of tells you it takes a minute, but you can't text your friends, but you can basically alert authorities. And if your local first responders don't accept texts, then it goes to some sort of like Apple relay, and then they will try to send your information and your location to your first responders. And so I think that's an important safety feature right now. Well, it is suspected that Apple might roll out some sort of satellite subscription package as others have done, but so far they have not. And they have has your fall detection ever gone off? I have that on my watch.
No, I don't think my fall detection has gone off.
Really? So it'll say if it thinks that you fell, it will say, "Did you fall?" And mine has only gone off once ever. And I was actually really angry in my office, and there was a fly that I could not kill. And I slapped my hand as hard as I could down on my desk to try to kill this fly. I definitely missed. And my watch is like, "Did you fall?" And I was like, "No, I didn't, but thank you for checking on me."
Well, I've even seen stories of Apple Watches being able to detect that you were about to have a heart attack or like a different type of cardiac episode, because of course it has the heart rate sensor built into it.
And now it has a pulse ox too, monitoring your oxygen. So yeah, it will. I've gotten the high heart rate sensor before, but mainly because I was just anxious about something work related. Yeah, that's right. They can. So I am excited about this new Apple feature. It might not be enough just yet to get me to buy the latest iPhone, but I'm sure there will be something new and fancy soon that will convince me to do it. Also, I'm very excited because we have another reason to hate birds.
The scooters or the animal?
Good question. So I already hate birds, but this bird scooter thing, apparently the company that is in charge of the scooters, they said it would be in every major headline if not for the collapse of this FTX crazy crypto guy. But birds they've been in trouble and they are potentially filing for bankruptcy. So, you know me, I hate birds. I hate those scooters. So all good for me. Right? All right. Coming up tomorrow, we have Steve Spellman and Representative Sarah Walsh in for Branden and I. John and Brian and Hannah will all be here too. We'll see you then. Coming up next, The Gary Nolan Show. See ya.